Before we begin, I would like to announce that these two babies that I love, that I've worked on so hard for a very long time, are already available in Amazon, both in digital and in physical format. So if you want to get them, the links will be down in the description. If you do get them, then I really hope that you enjoy them and tell me if you do. So thanks so much for your help and support, and we will see you in the rest of the video. Thank you. Let's begin. Hello everybody and welcome to this new episode of Analyzing Fiction. I am your host RH Naranjo, and today we're going to be talking about Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, the third installment of this series that I must say is one of my favorites. And before we continue, look at this. Look at this beauty right here. I finally have a microphone that will make the audio on this video and these videos in general hopefully a lot better, right? So finally got a microphone. That's cool. That's great. But anyway, this book is going to be this book has always been one of my favorites, and in fact it's one of the favorites of many people, and I can see why. But before we begin with all of that, with talking about the book itself, let's go ahead with the POA, the possible smell addiction. I always call it POA instead of POW, which is the actual acronym in Spanish, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, so let's measure the POA for Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, at least my edition, and let's see, and it is going to be definitely about an 8.5. It's a very delicious smell. I really enjoyed it, and I could spend quite some time smelling it. Actually, not as much as with a book that it's above a 9. In fact, I haven't found a single book that is above a 9 so far, at least that I've reviewed. But anyway, it's a very nice POW. So we can officially start discussing Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban by J.K. Rowling. Published in the year 1999, it has become one of the favorite books overall in the series for most fans, and it is definitely a lot better than books 1 and 2 in my opinion. Well, not necessarily 1 and 2. No, yeah, it's a lot better than 1 and 2, even though book 2, Chamber of Secrets, is also among my favorites, but it's still, The Prisoner of Azkaban, you can see that it is a lot better. The plot overall is more complex. We will see that later on in the review, sorry. But yeah, it's overall more complex. You can see that J.K. Rowling has really matured her style overall throughout the series, and this book really shows it. Anyway, I don't think this book needs any introductions, but shortly let's make one. If you want to know more about J.K. Rowling's life, you can of course go to the Philosopher's Stone, where I give a very lengthy summary of her life. Anyway, so J.K. Rowling began her life being in poverty. She had a very complicated first years, but she never gave up and eventually published Harry Potter, which became the legend that we all know now. And even though later on in the story, in her story, she did become a little weird, I will not talk about it because we are focusing only on her life prior to that epidemic of tweets. So yeah, that's essentially the life of J.K. Rowling, and of course the plot for this book also does not need a description. It's very widely known. Well, if you don't remember the story, it's Harry's third year on Hogwarts. He is with his friends, and this is the only book in which Lord Voldemort does not make an actual appearance. In fact, he is in the background for most of the story, and instead we deal with Sirius Black, a criminal who escaped from prison and is currently on the loose. So yeah, now we can officially begin the review. So we can officially start talking about Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, and let's begin with the plot. Now, as I was saying earlier on, the plot for this book is more complex than that for book 1 or book 2, meaning in a way that here the danger is from outside. This is the first book in which the danger, the overall problem, the antagonist, is exterior to Hogwarts. For book 1, we had Quirrell and Voldemort acting inside the school as danger. Meanwhile, in book 2, we had the Basilisk and Sirius and all these all these events, primarily the basilisk. But as of book 3, our main danger here is not one of these internal evils, but an external one, which is Sirius Black. And even though Sirius is actually good in the end, we don't know that until the very end. And yeah, overall, even Pettigrew, who you could say is the actual villain in this book, even Peter Pettigrew or the Dementors, they are all external evils. They are all out of Hogwarts and they are coming to Hogwarts. So in that way, it is different from the other books. But also, you have time travel, and time travel is very hard to make. It is a very complicated trope that can often lead to your book failing. However, Harry Potter does it in a very interesting way. It's not exactly like the movies. Here, apparently, you can change the timeline. However, they already know what's happening, so they try to keep up and maintain things the way they are. Try not to think about it, because that way you end up going around in a paradox, and that can be weird. I mean, did the first Harry and Hermione go back in time and they just invented all this time travel, or did they actually or is there a never-ending loop going on right here? So it's very strange. It can become a paradox. However, just don't think about it and let's move on. So yeah, the time travel here, it's rather well done, and in the movie it is very interesting how they do it. However, in the book, that sequence is not as interesting. I felt it like there was a lot of waiting going on. It was just going to this place and going for something to happen, then going to another place and waiting once again, and it was just waiting and waiting and waiting, and eventually it became tiresome. So even though you had scenes, very, very interesting scenes, such as the Harry when he creates his Patronus and discovers that he has the same Patronus as his father, it's a very interesting sequence, even though most of it is actually quite boring. However, on top of that, the time travel sequence, the story itself is very interesting. I really enjoy it for many reasons, and mainly because this book actually begins to give us more insight onto the past of Hogwarts, onto who Harry's parents were. And even though we'll still have questions until much later in the story that will be revealed, like Lily and Snape and all that storyline, we are beginning to get more information about Harry's past and about the past of his parents, and even between his own friends, everything that went between Wormtail and well, I only know Wormtail, and the others I really don't know. But anyway, it's very interesting how we are beginning to get a more in-depth knowledge of the past of this school. As for the characters, there are 4 characters that I'd like to highlight here, who are, and they are the Dursleys family. That's technically 1, and also the Sirius Black, Lupin, and at last Hermione. Well, and Hagrid technically. So let's start with the Dursleys. The Dursleys, they should go to jail, essentially. They just should go to jail. And I say this mainly because of the interactions that they had with the aunt, that the aunt is a very cruel person, but they are pretending to be even worse with Harry in order to suit her. So that is horrifying, and really, Vernon and Petunia, they really should go to jail for what they've done. They've been horrible to Harry, and social services would not doubt for a second before just grabbing them and taking them, tossing them into jail. They truly deserve it. That's essentially the Dursleys. So now we can go into Sirius Black, who is a lot darker than I expected, and his interactions with Harry in the beginning, well, when they actually meet and near the end, it's weird how they interact with one another. So Sirius arrives and he is desperate. He wants to kill Pettigrew. It's the only thing he can think about. So he is willing to horrify a group of kids and nearly strangle Harry only because he wants to kill Peter. So that interaction right there, that's scary. Sirius, my man, you're very dark in this book, actually. Even though you grow to become one of the coolest characters in the whole series, damn, you're dark in this book. So yeah, that Sirius, he arrives, he is desperate, he wants to kill Pettigrew, so he arrives, grabs Harry by the throat and begins to choke him until he can finally get a good view of Pettigrew, and he only stops choking Harry because Hermione goes and saves him. So that scene is just crazy, and even crazier if you consider that 2 minutes later, even though Harry and Sirius both want to kill each other, and both 2 minutes earlier, even though they were just about to kill each other, when Sirius reveals their story in a pretty long monologue and says and asks Harry to go with him, Harry is just like, sure, why not? What could go wrong? We just tried to kill each other 2 minutes ago. What could go wrong? So yeah, that interaction is very weird, and Harry, my man, you really need to get more experience interacting with these kind of people, because you know nothing of Sirius, and we know that he is a cool person, but we didn't know back then. Harry didn't know back then. It's weird. As for Lupin, Remus, I love him. He is just so humble throughout this book, such a humble character. I mean, he suffers a lot throughout this book, and throughout his life he suffered a lot because he is a werewolf, and he did not choose to become a werewolf. He was bitten and he just became one, and because of that, because of something that he didn't want to become, something that isn't his fault, he is mistreated and discriminated by pretty much everybody. He doesn't have a job, people are afraid of him, and even Snape treats him like trash throughout that whole year when he is giving the class, and when Remus is a teacher. And it's understandable that Snape hates Remus, and because Remus did something accidentally. It wasn't his fault, really. It was more the fault of Sirius and Harry's father that this actually happened, but still Remus feels bad because he feels guilty, and he understands that Snape is still angry with him even after all those years, and he just shows himself as such a humble person. He is so nice, and he understands the danger that he is in. He knows the danger that he is putting on the school because of him being a teacher, and I really admire Remus as a character because he is just magnificent. He is definitely the best dark arts teacher in the whole series, and yeah, I really appreciate how humble he is. I didn't realize that before, but I really enjoy that. As for our next character, who is Hagrid, I love you, man. You're just amazing, and I'm so sorry that you had to suffer through that much in this book. You didn't deserve it. I mean, you were so enthusiastic, you were so happy when you were given the opportunity to become a teacher, only for that opportunity to be ruined thanks to someone like Malfoy, and then your pet was nearly killed because of something that really isn't justified. But at last she was saved. So you passed from being excited to being disappointed, to being just so afraid, to being relieved. I mean, poor you, really, poor you. You went through so much in this book that you didn't deserve. I'm sorry, man. And at last you have Hermione. Hermione, we need to talk. I mean, first of all, I really like how you love your friendship with Harry and Ron, how you like them, how you love them so much that you are willing to give your friendship away for them to be safe. You understand the danger that they are in, and you're willing to make them angry at you just so that they are safe. So Hermione, for that reason, I really appreciate you, and I really like the effort and the sacrifice that you made. However, how in the world did it occur to you, the smartest student in Hogwarts, to take your cat to the room in which you know that your friend's pet is a rat? Why do you take a cat there? I mean, I understand why they are angry with you, and you should understand too. You are the one who should have apologized first, not Ron and Harry. They did make mistakes, but you were the one who started it when you not only took away Harry's firebolt, but you also took Crookshanks and took Crookshanks to the same room as Scabbers. And even though Crookshanks did not kill Scabbers, because we know that he became Peter Pettigrew, he did pretty much everybody thought that he had, and he very probably would have. I mean, if Scabbers hadn't been Peter Pettigrew, then Crookshanks would probably have killed Scabbers right there and right then. Now we can refer to the narrative, and the narrative is essentially the same. This is going to be quick. I really like how J.K. Rowling writes, and her descriptions are always amazing. I really enjoy reading them. Apart from that, there's not much, really. She has a very interesting narrative, very plain, easy to get into. I really like her narrative. Her descriptions are by far the strongest part of her narrative, but apart from that, it's very straightforward, very easy to read. And now, before we actually go into the execution, we're going to start talking about a little exceptions, little things that I thought could have been done better by J.K. Rowling in the story that didn't quite make sense. For example, the economy of the night bus. And magicians have many ways to travel. They have port keys, they have brooms, they can apparate, they can do many things. Why do they need a bus that is limited either to London or the whole English island, the British Isles? They have other methods for transportation. The night bus shouldn't be that used, and if it was used, then it would be primarily used by students, people who cannot use brooms, or people who cannot use brooms or other traveling methods because of a wound or something like that, or old age even. But that's not many people. There are not many people in that situation, and the night bus should really be struggling economically, or it should be like very humble, and the people who work there should be like using as little money as possible, because it just doesn't make sense that in a world where you have methods of transportation that are first quicker and a lot more economic than paying for a bus, they're also, in such a world, a bus doesn't really make sense. So the night bus it's an interesting concept. I really enjoyed it, but economically, it doesn't make the same sense as the rest. And don't get me wrong, Harry Potter economics are weird, but still, the night bus just doesn't make sense. Now, as for Quidditch, as for Hogsmeade, and this also links into the Quidditch one, why do people need a slip to go to Hogsmeade? I mean, it's alright if you are punished by going into the Forbidden Forest, but if you want to buy candy from the village nearby, then you need a slip that gives you permission, and maybe Sirius Black justifies this, but it still doesn't make sense. So why do you need a permission slip when you do not need the same thing for all the things that are in Hogwarts that are much more dangerous than Hogsmeade? For example, Quidditch. Quidditch breaks bones. Quidditch has broken arms, legs, and many more things. People have died playing Quidditch, yet you do not need a permission slip for that. And this also links up to my next thing, that is, why would Buckbeak be killed for a scratch when Quidditch is still allowed after so many wounds? So Buckbeak was sentenced to death because he scratched Malfoy's arm. Right. But Quidditch just makes so much bigger wounds, so much. It makes worse wounds, way worse wounds than this Buckbeak could ever create. And even then, if it's Malfoy and Sirius is his father, Severus. I forget his name. Not Severus, but Malfoy, Father Malfoy, Malfoy Daddy. Even if he is Draco's father, it still doesn't make sense that for a mere scratch compared to Quidditch, Buckbeak would have to be killed. And lastly, we go to my last complaint. You could say it's a complaint about this book, and it's that why would you give a time turner to Hermione? Time turners are hard. Well, they're not hard, they're dangerous. And Hermione herself tells Harry that by using them, they could be breaking one of the biggest rules in the history of magic. Then why would McGonagall give a 13-year-old a time turner only so that she can take 2 extra classes. If you are using an artifact that is not only dangerous, but extremely powerful, you do not give it to a girl who is 13 years old who only wants to take 2 extra classes. That does not make sense. And it is dangerous, it is imprudent, and it could very well end up in disaster, even if it is Hermione. So that is my last point. I will not stress it much, but you're getting what I'm saying. So anyway, that's Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban for you. The execution, I really liked it, and I think that I gave it a 78 out of 100 last time. So yeah, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban gets a 78 out of 100. I really liked it, 3 stars. There were things that didn't make sense, which I told you earlier, but anyway, it's still one of my favorite books, if not my favorite, before the Chamber of Secrets. So yeah, this book gets 3 stars. I really liked it, and if you like it, please leave your comment below. I would like to read it. I don't know what to say, but anyway, this has been our 7th episode of Analyzing Fiction. I really hope that you liked it, and if you did, please leave a like, subscribe, and follow the links down below. You'll have a link to CASA, ARTE México, to Plática Artística, and all the other projects that are going on between me and my group of friends. So yeah, thanks so much for watching. I will see you later. Bye.